Hey, it's Monday, and you know what that means? It's IndyCar night in America. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Gotzo, and welcome to Race First coverage of Round 8 of Season 1 of 2022, the Monday Night Indy Fix, coming to you from our, well, it's a race that a track that IndyCar has not seen in a long time, but we're going to be having some fun here today with 75 laps worth of coverage at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Joining me again for expert analysis in the booth from the NHR eSports team in the Lionheart IndyCar Series is Stephen Larkamp. Hey, Stephen, most of us are familiar seeing IndyCars at Texas, and while Texas and Atlanta might look the same, they are very different. What might the drivers be facing tonight?
Well, it is very true. Superficially, you would definitely say Texas and Atlanta look fairly similar to each other, even though Texas is a fair bit newer. But that means one particular thing everyone's going to be looking out for, and that is the bumps here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This track, with the configuration we've got now, this is, of course, before the rescan comes out at some point to be determined within the iRacing service of the Atlanta Motor Speedway, which was just repaved last year. But we are going to be seeing a lot of bumping around, a lot of unstable cars, perhaps, as the run goes on. So that is one thing they certainly have to look out for that you wouldn't find at a lot of other mile-and-a-halfs on the iRacing service. It's very exciting, but it makes it a lot of fun, but also quite hairy too. And looking at, and also another thing to consider here, of course we talk about, there are a few tracks that the bumpiness is another factor here, but another thing I'm looking at too is the heat from the track temperature. Of course, we love to call Atlanta Hot Atlanta, and that's for a good reason. It gets rather balmy down here in Georgia during the summer, especially. But here on the track as well, looking at ambient temperature, 78 degrees. The track temp right now is 113 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment. And that is only liable to get hotter as the run goes on tonight. So I get the feeling that tire wear is also going to be something that these guys are going to be paying close attention to.
Well, we got a minute left in the qualifying here. Right now, Pablo Diaz-Francis, PDF, is on the pole with a 2:18.115. That is not anywhere near the track record. We got three of them, actually. USAC raced here, CART raced here, and IRL raced here. USAC is Tom Sneva back in 1978, and he turned a lap of 202.475 miles per hour. That was pretty fast back then. The CART record is 1983, set by Rick Mears, who dominated the place here when CART was here. And that was with a speed of 204.693. Now, both of those were set on the old original oval configuration, the most preferred one that I like, so to speak, the old time one. Now, the current track record is set by Billy Boat, driving for AJ Foyt Racing in 1998. He had an Oldsmobile powered Dallara with Goodyear tires, and he did a speed of 224.145, but that is set on also a track that's not going to exist anymore either. That's as you know, Atlanta is going through some reconfigurations, and the banking is going to change, and the width of the track is going to change. So that track record was set on the current what you see now in front of us, the 24-degree banking, the quad oval layout back in 1998. IndyCar has not been back here after doing a 4-year stint in the IRL, which is 2001. So we have not seen IndyCar back here since that season. So watching the IR18s here is a bit of a different sight, so to speak.
Certainly has been a sight that Atlanta in real life, as you mentioned, haven't seen since the 1990s. But looking at lap times right now, of course, if you want to compare Billy Boat's lap time of 224, these guys are running about, what did you say, about 218?
Yeah, 218. 218 was the pole speed, and we do have the starting grid up on the screen here for you. If you want to go ahead, we can read those off.
On the pole, as you mentioned, our old friend Pablo Diaz-Francis, who's been putting in some solid performances this season. Of course, been bitten by terrible luck lately in the process. Hopefully that won't be the case here today. Alongside him, the number 6 of AJ Musselman, rounding out the front row. Good effort so far for him. Chris Wilhite, the winner earlier this year at Michigan, and a really good performance last time out at Richmond Raceway. He will start third alongside the number 9 machine of John Silva in P4. Rafael Eckertz, number 23, starts 5th, alongside the number 10 of Adriano Fraporti. Adriano Pinero in the number 1. The guy who started on pole at Las Vegas, got wrecked on the pace lap, but came back to win the race anyway. He starts 7th.
No problem.
This will be no problem for him then. Alongside him will be the number 11 of Guillermo Parkel in P8. Mark Murphy in P9 and the number 12, alongside the 15 of Bruno Miranda. Another driver who's been putting in some stellar performances so far this season. Cesar Cabral in the 21 starts 11th, alongside the 7 of Trey Shadid. Gil Ribeiro in the 18 starts 13th, alongside the 3 of Anthony Emery. Christopher Hamelink's number 24 machine starts 15th, alongside the 25 of Antonio Estrada. Alexandre Ragon, another regular of the broadcast tonight, starts 17th. A lot of work he's got to do for that number 8 car, alongside the 16 of Alan Morea. Justin Dore in the 22 starts 19th, alongside James Simmons in the 17, rounding out the top 20. Matthew Mercer and Dylan Moskowitz starts 21st and 22nd. Victor Torini in the 19 starts 23rd, alongside the 13 of Jack Spritzer. And shotgun on the field, the only driver not supposed to queue time is Johnny McNamara in the number 20.
One of the bet that his nickname is probably Johnny Mac, and I like it already. So we're getting ready to go racing, and calling the opening lap here is Stephen Larkamp.
And I think that McNamara, we'll be calling him Johnny Mac tonight. We'll give him that nickname anyway if he doesn't have it already. But getting ready to go here, 75 laps at Atlanta. Pace car ready to make that turn on the pit road. PDF on the throttle already. Green flag flies. We are underway in Atlanta. And a very good start indeed for Pablo Diaz-Francis. He gets a big jump over A.J. Musselman back in second, who's facing pressure from Chris Wilhite. John Silva tucks in the line there just behind that number 2 machine. Everyone's starting to get themselves into order pretty quickly here. But meanwhile, there's a little bit of a battle going on at the back of the top for 5th position here, as Pinero and Fraporti go side by side in 3 and 4. That was actually really close to the wall for Pinero. And across the line, PDF has a very good lead so far. Meanwhile, up here, we're already seeing lots of
cars contact in the back.
Parkel! Guillermo Parkel, Mark Murphy. And another one as well. I'm trying to pick out who that is. That's the 21 machine of Cesar Cabral.
My goodness, and that was a bit of that. We're not going to see a pack race tonight. I don't think we're going to see that, and I think that was we were seeing right there what the case of tonight is going to be looking like. You're going to be able to stay with the draft for a couple laps, and then it's going to get really pushy towards the back, and that's looks like that's probably what happened. No, okay. I was just focusing on it a little bit, and I switched to the front of the pack, or our director did. And here, let's take another look at this angle. Yeah. It looks like Perkel is underneath the 23 of Eckhart, and he kind of washes up and gets into the wall, and then he collects Murphy. And then the 21 kind of had no place to go. He actually almost was clearing it, desperately trying to slow down, but they just all collected him. So right now it looks like a 2-car accident here on the opening lap.
Gotta feel bad for Cesar Cabral in that situation. He was just the victim of circumstance at the end of that one. But look to me like another factor that we were looking at here. I actually turned some laps before the race and before this race went live to get a sense what these guys were going to feel like. And looking at it, this is, if you watch this broadcast long enough, you may have heard me say the phrase, is you play the game, find the clean air, and that's definitely what a lot of these guys are going to be looking for today. There's multiple grooves you could run here at Atlanta and trying to circumvent the bumps, but at the same time, but what the common denominator is of all that, you don't want to be in the draft of another car in the middle of the corner, and therefore, your grip is just gone.
Well, very inauspicious start to tonight's race. It's 75 laps tonight. Very similar type of races we've seen on 1.5 mile ovals across the service, 75 laps. So that means about the pit window opens going to open 23, 24, 25 for sure, depending on how well you could save fuel. You're looking at about a 50 lap per tank run with these cars, at least at these particular speedways, if they were to go all green. So right now, all these guys are kind of doing some fuel conservation under caution, trying to work this stint to be as long as possible. But wouldn't you agree, though, that staying out maybe as long as possible might not be a good thing with the way these tires run off?
It's certainly possible. It's kind of the game you got to play with a track like Atlanta. Tire wear is certainly going to be a major factor here with the track heat. Actually, the track temp has gone down slightly at 112 degrees, but it's still rather toasty. But these guys have got to be worried about, like if you want to get track position predominantly, then you would come in at the earliest possible opportunity when you still have some semblance of grip on the tires and you're going to have fresh ones there to make up position that you're going to have at the end of the race. The question mark there is, will they go for that, or will they go for a strategy that they come in around the middle of their fuel stint, say about lap 35, 38 thereabouts, and then come in to give them some sort of a balance on tire degradation throughout the whole run of the race, maybe give them better tires at the end. It's going to be a big question that these guys have got to come up with the strategies with either before the race or on the fly. And speaking of on the fly, lights are
ready to go green. That's right. We're back to racing.
Certainly a very quick caution here. Pace car ready to dive down once more. PDF once again on the throttle. Musselman trying to stay with him there. I would imagine Musselman is liking the prospect of staying with him right now. Of course, though, he's going to have to worry about being in the slipstream of him in the middle of the corner. And the top three right now have got a pretty big gap right now over John Silva in fourth.
And the snake starts down the backstretch.
Starting the snake, yep. The draft weave in there. You see it at a lot of the big tracks here, trying to break the toe behind you. But the top three right now, PDF, AJ Musselman, and Chris Wilhite, they have gotten themselves a pretty decent gap over for Porty and Silva, who go
big
side by
battle
side
right back there. Yeah, I just focused in on them. A huge battle, three-car battle right now for looks like P4 with Silva leading the way for Porty and Pinero. Pinero stuck on the high side at the moment, trying to get an opening. There he goes, slides on in, and that is your battle for fourth.
Pinero with a great launch off the corner there on the top side. You can certainly do that very, very well here. In fact, the high line can give you a lot of momentum on corner exit and allow you to slingshot.
There he goes.
By him, as he's trying to do right now, the number 9 of John Silva. Let's see how he does it. Side by side. Silva scrubbing off speed on that low side. Pinero clears him handily.
Yeah, he has found the high side. The high side does work here. I was talking pre-race, and we don't really have much to hang our hats on for IndyCar action here. I saw an Area 51 race, I believe, that ended under fuel mileage, with cars literally running out of fuel coming to the checkered flag. And then I was in the Velocity Online Racing League race here, and the high side, I had a teammate that just lived on the high side and worked his way all the way up to a podium finish there. The high side is a very friendly side of the track here for you to run on and to make up positions. And as you see, we're focusing on Pinero right now. He used that line to get around the guys at the start. He's already up 3 positions from where he started today's race.
Another great start once more by Adriano Pinero. And it's certainly true. The high line here at Atlanta is definitely working quite well for him right now. And a lot of people may, on first impressions, think that may be counterintuitive, especially when you compare it to a few other 1.5 mile tracks we've been to lately. You look at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we went to a couple weeks ago.
Wilhite per second.
Musselman and Wilhite. Musselman sticking to that top side. Will he be able to defend that position from there? Looks like he will for now. And that's one thing we're seeing here. And cosmetically, you'd say Atlanta looks rather similar to other 1.5 mile tracks. Charlotte may well be the closest analogy. But here, with the bumps and the way the banking works here, and the way the middle of the corner seems to get tighter as you go towards the exit of the corner, and also it's also a factor of the setups as well. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, but the way it's looking now, that high line could well be the preferred line for a lot of guys that are not Pablo Diaz-Francis at this point, who's picking whatever line he pleases.
Well, we're getting ready to see a battle here because Pinero is working up on the rear wing of Chris Wilhite.
I think I saw Pinero get a bit tight there on entry behind Chris Wilhite. Once again, even though that top line may be preferable, he still has to play that little game of find the clean air behind that number 2 machine as Wilhite works to the top side trying to get around AJ Musselman in front of him. This is going to be an interesting little game of chicken, perhaps. These guys are going to have to play with each other until they really, until it's decided who's going to be running where when they get side by side.
Yeah, this is the old configuration as of when this NASCAR Winston Cup, Gary, NASCAR Cup season starts. As you see that this configuration, it's going to remain the double dogleg, as you see on the front stretch. They are going to increase the banking from 24 degrees to 28 degrees, and they're going to narrow the racetrack by about 15 feet from 55 feet, which I will say that this is probably the widest 1.5-mile quad oval that out of all of them on the service. There's really not that many. It's only Texas and Charlotte, but
Kentucky probably comes to mind.
Well, that's a quad oval. This is I'm sorry, I meant to say tri-oval.
Kentucky's a D oval, of course.
Well, yeah, and same as Kansas and Chicagoland, those, but in terms of the ones with the quad oval, which is a double dogleg in the front stretch, this one is probably the widest of the 3, with the exception of maybe turn 1 at Texas now, but they're going to narrow it from 55 feet to 40 feet. And they say it'll give them better racing for the Cup cars, and that remains to be seen, because I think a good Cup racing is an oxymoron anyways, but that's kind of what we're seeing here. But before, back in prior to the reconfiguration that you see here, this was a straight up oval. So think of Homestead, and that's basically what you had, 24 degrees in the corners, but that was the type of configuration you had, a straight up oval.
And I'm sure a lot of old school fans are longing for the days of the old regular oval Atlanta Motor Speedway still. And I've had a look back at, as Pinero, meanwhile, he's looking to the high side of
he
Wilhite.
had a great run. It's like almost Wilhite had to roll out of it somehow.
I think he was. I think he was having issues in the draft of Musselman in front of him. And it may look like it's not that far away that'd be an issue. It can still be. Either Wilhite was caught off guard with that, or his tools weren't in the proper position, and once he realized it was too late, Pinero had found that high line and got a lot of momentum. Speaking of it, he's trying to do it again, this time on the number 6 of AJ Musselman. He is loving that top side right now.
Looks like Musselman's kind of moved up there to also help himself and to kind of prohibit that run, but too late. He is there. He's on the outside going into the double dog legs. Nope, he's going to back inside now. He's going to take a look on the outside, take that high line into 1. I think Musselman's going to have to give that up. Yeah.
Guillermo Parkel in front of him was involved in an earlier incident. Will he be helpful to one or the other? As Pinero goes down to the low side, he has taken that second spot away from Musselman. Fantastic start so far for Adriano Pinero. Not unexpected of him. Of the performances he's put in lately has shown that this guy can certainly mount a charge in adverse situations.
Up 5 spots, since the start. Now, if you are a bit of an old school PC gamer, you can race the old configuration of the Atlanta Motor Speedway in NASCAR Racing 1, the original title. That actually had the old configuration there. And if you're even more savvy at those type of sims back then, because they were made by the same company, which is the precursor to what we see on iRacing today, Papyrus, they also made an IndyCar sim, and there's some enterprising mod guys back in the day made a track converter that you could convert the IndyCar tracks to NASCAR and NASCAR tracks to IndyCar. So we actually could race back in the day the IndyCars on the original oval, and they were getting some insane speeds. Now keep in mind, those were 95 spec cars with all the turbo power in the world. Very, very light cars. So they were moving right along. And then we were in the middle of a tire war, so they were moving right along on that oval. I believe I was turning laps in excess of 230 in the game, so that they were really moving there. But 218, a little bit more, I guess, pedestrian today.
Perhaps so, and I'm pretty sure if a certain NASCAR YouTuber that I follow, namely Slapshoes, is here, that he hears you say tire war and he's cringing internally. But looking back on the situation on track here, Pinero has cleared him, but AJ Musselman did get held up quite a bit by Guillermo Parkel here. Parkel has not really been too helpful at the moment, but thankfully for Musselman, he's got a big gap back to Chris Wilhite back in P4, who's now got Rafael Eckert, John Silva, and Bruno Miranda to contend with behind him.
Taking a look at that battle right back there. This is a battle for fifth. Eckert, Silva, Miranda, Emery, and Ribeiro right there, all on your picture.
And we're getting around the point here. This is lap 26. We're about to be thinking about pit stops pretty soon. And this is going to be a very, this is going to be the point of who has got the best strategy right now. Pablo Diaz-Francis has pretty much got the ball in his court right now for the strategy for the win. But Adriano Pinero, looking at lap times right now, Pinero is lapping slower. Of course, he's had to wear those tires out a bit more than PDF has. So this is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see if Pinero comes in soon or if PDF comes in first. Let's see what they've got going for themselves, as Chris Wilhite's actually gotten passed for fourth place by the 23 of Rafael Eckert. A good start for him so far. Meanwhile, behind him, John Silva, Bruno Miranda, and Anthony Emery in this battle for sixth. Ooh. They've got a lap car to deal with.
Yeah, they sure do. And Silva didn't. He took every bit of that room that was in front of the who was that? That was
Miranda.
Miranda in the 15. Got a little squirrely there through the quad oval area.
Very squirrely there. I almost didn't recognize Bruno Miranda there. He's running a different paint scheme than I expected him to run. Very nice looking red, black, and yellow machine. But they managed to clear that lap car. This battle is still very much joined right now, this battle for sixth position. But I'm sure these guys are not particularly happy with Guillermo Parkel, who's 14 laps down as it stands. And Mark Murphy is also lapping on track, the two guys that were the primary victims of that first incident that brought out the first and so far only caution of the night. They're still turning laps, but they are at least 13 laps down each. So they're just out here to get whatever positions may pick up for scraps, or just to recover whatever safety rating may be left for their nights.
Right, but you also can't be a moving chicane for the rest of the field.
That's true. There's nothing in the rule book specifically saying that you have to do everything in your power to get out of the way of the leaders like there is in Formula One. I keep alluding to that whenever this topic is brought up, because it's really the only series that strictly enforces that rule. But it's definitely good manners. It's common courtesy to be helpful to the lap cars, facilitate the pass, and just not make yourself a nuisance and even cause another accident that'll just make their night even worse.
Yeah, it's kind of like those several unwritten rules of baseball, that you don't do in baseball. I would say that it's a little bit more of an unwritten rule of IndyCar racing, kind of a little IndyCar etiquette going on there, that if you're multiple laps down, even though you're at speed, you should probably let the cars around you that are on the lead lap, that are racing for positions, get around you, instead of, well, I have speed. That means if I have speed, that means they have to work themselves around me. That's not how it really should work. And like I said, these guys keep long memories, and they will remember that. And one of these days, when Guillermo is going to want a break, somebody's not going to give it to him, because they're going to remember that he was many laps down and holding them up at some race or another.
As someone myself with an incredibly long memory, I can certify that for certain. But meanwhile, while we were going through that, Rafael Eckert has made a fantastic
caution on the racetrack.
Caution, trying to find out who that
James
is.
Simmons. Something happened to James Simmons.
See, James Simmons was... Let's see. Oh, I think he got the wall off of turn number 4, trying to see what caused that. And it comes out around the point where I was thinking that these guys were going to be thinking about making green flag.
That's t-shirt time right there. Apron bad.
Apron bad. Yes. Apron bad indeed. Unfortunately, it caught out James Simmons. Very, very unfortunate showing here. And unfortunately at Atlanta, running the low line here, it's pretty easy to catch that apron, especially with how abrupt with how big the banking is and how abrupt the transition is. And as I expected, pretty much every one of the leaders is on pit road.
Yeah, everyone is going to pit road. This will get them to the end. So this is not going to be a fuel mileage race. It might be a tire conservation race. We will yet to remain to see that. But right now, once they get fueled up, they are good to go to the end on the juice.
PDF actually looked like he had a little bit of a slide coming on in his pit box. He managed to get it down pretty well. He is down and away. He will still maintain that lead.
Musselman lost 2 spots.
Musselman, looks like that's around the same as he was before, but Rafael Eckert had a great stop. He jumps Pinero for second.
Nice.
And actually, it's like Pinero slowing down. Did he get a penalty, I wonder? Pit speed limit here is 50 miles an hour. Yes, I think he did get a speeding penalty. I saw him at 53, so he has got to drop to the back. Oh, no.
Well, he's been through hardships before. So I guess we'll get to see this again. Fresh tires and Adriano Pinero storming from the rear we're actually just about at the halfway point. I would say that with an additional caution or two and maybe dipping in to get those last set of tires, I would say that this is probably not out of his reach by any means of the any stretch of the imaginations for that matter.
I mean, if Las Vegas a couple weeks ago proved me anything, if Pinero is still in this race with a race car that he can put underneath him, he is not out of this yet. It's going to be a hard one for certain, but he's been through hard challenges in the past. This will probably just be another one to tick off his box, as it were.
So we got 2 lap cars right now in front of your leader, PDF. They will get the wave around. That is an IndyCar rule. Pace car always picks up the leader, and the leader always restarts when the track goes back to green. That prevents incidences that happened in the 80s and 90s with slower cars kind of bringing the field to green and bunching up the field behind them. It gets kind of dangerous. So in a safety aspect for real IndyCar racing, this makes a lot of sense. In the sim aspect, it's like, well, as a leader, I want these guys away from me. So send them around.
Yeah, I mean, PDF sees that as an absolute win. That's for certain. But looking at the running order right now, it is still Pablo Diaz-Francis who has led from the drop of the green so far on lap 37. Rafael Eckert up to second place after starting 5th. AJ Musselman still holding on to 3rd. Chris Wilhite 4th. Bruno Miranda 5th. Anthony Emery 6th. Gil Ribeiro, a quiet night for him so far, but he is up to 7th. Trace Shadid in 8th. Christopher Hamlink in 9th. And Alexandre Ragon up 7 spots, rounds out the top 10 so far as lights out once more on the pace car. The lap cars got waved around, and we'll see if Eckert can in fact challenge PDF for the lead of this race.
Yeah, I got some big teams up at the front here. That we have the Neneki Racing team, then we have the Corinthian Bread Kings team, then we have the Indy Alliance team. I should know what Wilhite races for, but I don't. But I know he's on a pretty good team. I know Miranda's on a pretty good team. I mean, those top 5 cars right there, they're all part of established IndyCar teams that are on the iRacing circuit that this is what they do. They didn't get into these official races, and they dominate there, and they get into leagues, and they dominate in those as well. And they are the powerhouses among many other teams that are in iRacing and the iRacing surface as well. We're getting ready to go green. Here we go. PDF gets a great start.
Good start once again for PDF. Eckert just left behind in the dust right now. Of course, he is going to have the slipstream on the straightaways. It's certainly going to be a bit of a hindrance in the corners. But as we got...
Ooh, we have a car spinning around in the trial area. That is Anthony Emery. Not sure what happened there, but he's back underway. No caution, but the cars are at speed, and they're going to catch him rather quickly.
Anthony Emery, who was running 6th on the restart there. I'm not sure what happened to him. It actually looks like, oh, he just lost it on acceleration. Had a little quick look-see at that. Car just got loose to him and looked like he got near that transition point on the front stretch where there's a big bump there, and it's hard to it's hard to spot, but you notice it when you run over it.
Pinero up 3 spots.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on him. Don't worry, folks. Adriano Pinero is not out of this yet. But meanwhile, for 3rd place, Will Height and Musselman side by side. Musselman on the high line there. Can he get the run that so many have gotten so far tonight? Yes, he does. And he clears Chris Wilhite. Gets down to that low line once more.
Oh, he flashed him with dirty air big time.
Oh, yeah, little present there on the way out there, AJ Musselman. wants to get him off his case. But Musselman now sets his sights once more on Rafael Eckert, who right now has a 0.6 of a second deficit to Pablo Diaz-Francis, who's once again made a fantastic start to hold on to the lead of this race. He is I'm sure at this point I'm thinking that he's loving the fact that he got pole position on this race. That clean air seems to be working for him splendidly.
John Silva had either a bad pit stop or something. He was among the top 10, and he is back now in 15th. Wonder what happened there.
Not sure what happened there. He is still turning laps, still holding on to position right now, but I'm not too certain what happened there, but a very unfortunate one for John Silva. But Chris Wilhite, meanwhile, he's gotten right back at AJ Musselman. He's back up to P3 again.
Also in the battle now is Ribeiro. I love that livery. That doesn't scream Brazil at all, does it not? But he is on the back door of Bruno Miranda at the moment, and he's looking for a way around. Also see in chat that we got a fan club for Tony, and he is on the outside of the top 10. There he is. He just made his way into the top 10. And, oh, he gets it to the wall! Oh, Announcer's jinx!
Oh, my goodness, Gary, what have you done?
It's his fan club. It's his fan club.
But it looks like Torini is still keeping it going, it looks like, but he does have Alan Morea all over his gearbox now in 1 and 2. Morea looks to that low line once more. Doesn't seem like it's done too much damage right now. Ooh, he's had to keep it off the wall a little bit. Morea gets a bit of a run there. And, of course, Torini is working in the slipstream with the 24 of Christopher Hamlick in front of him. He's still got that to worry about. But Morea looking down low, and actually he did get ahead of him at the line by 1/1000th of a second.
And he's going to pull ahead of him, and he just flashes them with the dirty air. That is the slide job everyone's doing tonight on everyone else.
Yes, exactly. It's the asphalt version of a slide job. Of course, you hear that more often in dirt racing circles. But you can certainly do it here in its own little way. It's not quite as flashy, but it still gets the point across. But meanwhile, once more, that battle for third, Musselman and Wilhite still engrossed in their battle, and they've actually caught up to Rafael Eckert, who has lost ground considerably to Pablo Diaz-Francis in front of him. PDF now has a 1.7 second lead. We'll see what it is coming out the line this time. 1.7 seconds lead still between him and Rafael Eckert. Chris Wilhite is looking on that high line, trying to find that clean air and get as much run as he can so that he can get up and take second place for himself.
The march has stalled for Pinero. He is now kind of stuck in 18th at the moment.
Look to me. Oh. Like, it sounded like to me he came very close to the wall there in turn number 3. He is trying everything he possibly can, but it's just not working out for Pinero right now. So Unfortunately for him, he's going to need a minor miracle for that and to get up to the position that he was at before that unfortunate penalty he got for speeding on pit road.
ADF is your leader, pretty much led the entire way. He's up by 1.9 seconds over P2 Rafael Eckert. There he is.
Rafael Eckert has got Chris Wilhite and AJ Musselman to contend with. Musselman still hasn't given up this fight for P3 either. And looking behind them, Bruno Miranda and Gil Ribeiro are keeping within earshot of the guys ahead of them. They've got some work to do to make the most use of their tools to get up to the cars in front of them. But they're still within earshot of a good position too. They're working lap number 52 here out of 75, just under 25 laps to go here.
Riding on board with AJ Musselman. They're dropping down the fourth gear in the middle of these turns.
Rather surprising. It's not something you normally see on mile and a half. We saw people dropping down the third gear last week out at Richmond, but Richmond you probably would expect to see people going down the low gears for more revs. Here, though, it's rather surprising they're down in fourth gear, but you're trying to get as much rotation out of the car as you possibly can. It's probably a good choice to make. But Musselman, looking behind him, he's got that number 15 machine of Bruno Miranda running right up on that.
Yeah, you can see in his rearview mirror right there on the middle of your screen, folks, and that red and black car right there on his right side there in the right side mirror, keeping right on his 6. He's out probably just off to his left down low now. There he's back up high. There you see him again in the mirror. I don't know, the car seems a little skittish going through 1 and 2 here. It feels like, at least from the camera angle and how the camera's kind of moving, that it might be a little loose on corner exit, but maybe that's just me.
It could very well be. It could well be the result of tire wear. As we mentioned before, the tire wear is certainly going to be a big thing with the track as hot as it is and the track as demanding on tires as it is under whatever counts for normal circumstances by what I'm saying here in Atlanta. Because this track earns the nickname Hot Atlanta for a reason. It does get, as I mentioned before, it does get rather balmy down here in Georgia. So it's certainly something that these guys have got to be considering this whole race. Pablo Diaz-Francis, of course, with no one in front of him to give him excess tire wear, has got the best seat in the house in that regard. He's using up as much of the racing groove as he possibly can. He's just taking it easy on his rubber, not doing anything abrupt on it. But meanwhile, behind them, they still got to worry about the draft, and that draft is going to add a lot more wear on the tires than they would if someone were in Pablo Diaz-Francis' position up front.
Battle for 16th here, Cesar Cabral and John Silva, 2 teammates, looks like, based upon the liveries there. Cabral got the position. This is back in the middle of the top 15, top 20 area. This is really turning into when I raced the Velocity Online Racing League race here. This is what it's kind of turned into. The cars got spread out, and then after a while, you didn't want to be in the area of the car in front of you, so everyone was kind of like spaced like a second and a half evenly around the track. And right now, as you look at the interval right now, 2 seconds from Francis to Eckert, but a half second back to Wilhite, a second back to Musselman, another half second back to Miranda, a second and a half back to Ribeiro. So there's an obvious pattern going on with how these cars are kind of spacing themselves out.
Certainly true. It's the nature of how the tires are working with this
lap traffic.
And lap traffic coming into play for our leader right now. But getting back to that point, this is something we were expecting to a degree here at Atlanta. This track doesn't really have the same sort of surface consideration that you would at a place like, say, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, which is very much suited to pack racing by comparison. But these guys are having to work more on tire management more than anything else. At Las Vegas, you didn't really have that concern, at least not to this degree, and you were able to keep things very, very close together as Pablo Diaz-Francis gets around the lap car of Guillermo Parkel.
Yeah, Parkel just kind of pulled down and let him go.
A lot more helpful there was Markel than he was last time. Maybe he learned his lesson from that last time, but now we've got one of the battles for a top 5 position. That's Bruno Miranda and AJ Musselman for 4th place.
We got a battle right now for 11th shaping up between Justin Dorr and Alan Morera. Morera on the top side there, Dorr on the bottom, and that red car with the flames on it, side by side.
Matthew Mercer.
Oh, that Matthew Mercer. Okay, so this is a battle for 12th then, with Morera and Mercer. Mercer in the familiar blue with red flames, and then Morera with that shiny teal green on the top side there.
Mercer clears him right now. Morera trying to use that high line once more. Mercer down low. Morera trying to get that run on the exit of the corner once more. Not quite working out this time there. Mercer has got a bit of a gap between him and Justin Dorr in front of him. But it's still going to be to the point where he's going to feel that arrow push there. And the same is going to be true with Alan Morera behind him. And Morera, once again, trying to find the clean air wherever he can so we can stay in touch with Matt Mercer, maybe knock on the door of a top 10 as things wind down here.
10 laps to go.
We're going to be approaching 10 laps to go next time by.
It's amazing how quick it rattles off here. Another name we haven't had a lot to mention tonight, up P7 there, another Corinthian-bred King car, Andre Ragon. He's up in the top 10. There's Trace Shadid right behind him, another name we haven't really talked about a lot tonight. Dylan Moskowitz, we haven't mentioned him a lot tonight. Zach Sprider, we haven't mentioned a lot tonight. My man, Antonio Estrada, struggling back in 20th. I gotta ask him what he's got going on there. I think he lost the draft. I think that's what happened. But he's back there in position 20. He's a teammate of mine in another series. Yeah, some names that we haven't mentioned yet, but they are here still giving it a shot as we are now 10 laps to go. Pablo Diaz-Francis is your leader, and he has lap traffic still in front of him.
Cars still worrying and still to worry about there. Actually, one of them gave him a bit of dirty air there on exit there. Rafael Eckert is looking at this, pleading with the lap car. Please hold him up. Let me catch up to him. The gap is now down to 1.1 seconds now. Eckert is on the move. He was about a 10th up on PDF last time by. Looking at lap times once more, he's actually about 2/10 up on PDF. It's under a second now. The battle for the win, it will probably be joined relatively soon if things go on the way they have.
In chat, we got a shout out from Miranda. It says a sponsorship with Schaefer's Oil there, where Schaefer Oil sponsors the Revolution IndyCar League's IndyCar Series they have there. And I ran with Schaefer sponsorship in the 2 races that I entered there. And that was a fun ride I had with them. If I could never, that was a really slick looking car. It looked like something Penske would drive.
It's a very, very nice looking scheme that Miranda's got running tonight. Certainly big departure from the last time, and I think it suits him very, very well. But looking once again at this lead battle, that lap car has not gone away. It's down to under half a second between Pablo Diaz-Francis and Rafael Eckert. Eckert up there on that high line, looking everywhere he can to get that clean.
He's there. He's there.
Is there.
Yeah, we got on the blimp cam, and you could physically see how close they are going to the high side. He's going to have a run off the high side. Now, was PDF going to block it or get in the way? Nope. Looks like Eckert's going to look down low. Not gonna. Well, he's gonna stay there, and he's gonna. Wow! He's gonna move on.
He's gonna wash up a little bit.
Oh, and you know what? I think he might have kissed it just a little bit, and if there wasn't, you could have put a sheet of paper between the wheel and the wall there with PDF.
That was by a hair's breadth there. Pablo Diaz-Francis holds off Rafael Eckert. Eckert's going to be looking everywhere. This lap car in front of them has not been doing PDF any favors right now. Eckert now looking to that high line once more. PDF used it to good effect last time. Not quite to the point where he needed it right there. But Eckert he's going to have 3 more shots at this. 3 laps to go this time by. You don't need me to tell you the gaps right now. You can see it right now. Rafael Eckert has a shot at the win here tonight.
Anthony Emery is wearing the number 3, so that means he has the 3rd highest I rating in this race. And you would think that maybe with the 2 drivers trying to slug it out, and here we go, side by side in the 3, that he might let him by, but he's going to be part of this whether he likes it or not. And there you go, Eckert pulls off the pass, going to do the switcheroo. Pablo Diaz slides up the racetrack, trying to get on the top side, going into 1, 3 laps to go, now 2 laps to go.
PDF to that high side there. Rafael Eckert trying to force him up as much as he can. PDF with a great run off the corner. He retakes the lead of this race. This is turning into a great battle over the final few laps right now. Eckert
This is not over.
It's not over for certain. Eckert is going to have 1 more lap. Can he get by Pablo Diaz Francis?
White flag.
The dominant car all night long. White flag in the air. Francis to the low side. PDF and PDF trying to break the toe on him. He's weaving down there. Eckert doesn't quite have the run quite yet. Can he get in the middle of the corner right now? I don't know if it'll be enough right now. It's not. Pablo Diaz Francis holds on, and he scores the win at Atlanta.
Great finish there. Great finish.
Fantastic race at the end there. It really does show how good these races can be, even if it looks like the races can get spread out. And you can tell that Eckert drove the wheels off that number 23 machine, and he got it to a very solid spot there. Not quite the win he desired. That goes to Pablo Diaz Francis. Fantastic drive by both of them. PDF doing some burnouts on pit road. Maybe dings up the chassis a little bit there a little bit, but he was done with it anyway. Gave him the win he needed.
Let's take a look at tonight's final results here. Official results here for the Monday night top split here in IndyCar. Your winner, as you just saw, Pablo Diaz Francis, and just by the slightest of all margins, of a race that really didn't really see that much close racing up at the front anyways. But Rafael Eckert gave a great run toward the end at P2. Chris Wilhite, very quiet P3. I believe he's leading the points, and that's something that he wants to do, a very quiet P3. AJ Musselman, he was up in the top 5 all night long, runs this race, finishes 4th. Bruno Miranda 5th. That is your top 5. Your top 10 is Gil Ribeiro, Andre Ragon, Trace Shadid, Victor Tontoni, and Justin Dore, or Dore. And again, if we're wrong, just let us know and we'll make sure we correct that. Is your top 10. Matthew Mercer, Christopher Hamelink, Alan Morera, Dylan Moskowitz, and Cesar Cabral make up your top 15. Your top 20 is Zach Sprader. Adriano Pinero stalls out there in 17th. So I guess whatever penalty he got on pit road was extremely costly as it relates to today's race. Hey, 18th, Johnny Mack right there. 19th, John Silva. And 20th, my man, Antonio Estrada. And then rounding out the remainder of this 25-car field, Anthony Emery, Guillermo Pucel, Adriano Forporti, James Simmons, and Mark Murphy. And let's see if there's anyone in the booth that wants to talk.
I see Chris Wilhite and Mark Murphy down.
Well, we'll bring up Murphy, or excuse me, we'll bring up Wilhite because he's finished on the podium, but I'm sure we want to hear how this affects his points battle. So we'll bring him on up. Hey, Chris, congratulations, P3. Looked like it was pretty treacherous going out there.
Yeah, tough racing tonight, tough track conditions, tough set. Just got super slick, very tight, really tough to pass, tough to find air, tough to find lanes. It was a tough race, that's for sure.
Yeah, the feeling that I got, and this was when racing the Velocity Online Racing League race there a couple weeks ago, is it was pushing at times, and then it'll just get loose on you at other times. And there was really no way around it. There wasn't a uniform setting on the bars or the weight jacker you could really keep it on to kind of build a momentum on one setting or another. It was just you're constantly busy in the cockpit. Were you finding yourself that way as well?
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And I went, the first run, I went a little bit more bars versus weight jacker and just didn't feel like that was working for me. So that second run, I went a little more weight jacker versus bars. helped a little bit. At least made one pass there. But yeah, you're right. It definitely had ebbed and flowed throughout the run, and then of course, depending on what the air was doing, there was a couple of lap guys that were kind of in the way of the lead lap cars that really kind of affected the air as well. So you never really knew what you were going to get.
I always say on the broadcast that we have long memories and remember that stuff. So I'm assuming you will remember that at some point in time. But also, I also know you as a racer that you'll probably, if there was a race for the lead behind you on the last lap and your lap's down, I'm sure you didn't want to be a person that would influence that. But like I said, all of us racers have long memories. I'm sure. Well, you already know who the name is, and you just didn't want to say it. But I'm sure you have long memory. Looking at the point situation, you're about 200 up on Jesper Orman for the top spot in the Division 1 championship. P3 today gets you on a good way to keeping that lead, doesn't it?
Yeah. P3 today is huge. Adriano Pinheiro, he had some problems. I assume he sped on pit road because he was going to come out P2 and then he had to drop to the rear. So he's another one of our points contenders there. So take advantage of his misfortune tonight. And yeah, good points finish for us tonight. And now it's on to next week, on to Kentucky.
Legacy Kentucky. This is a little bit different versus the new version of Kentucky, which kind of has that various radius different ends at each side. This is more of a uniform Kentucky track, kind of what IndyCar raced when they had their last race there. How do you think these cars are going to do it at Kentucky? Are we going to see a race like tonight, or are we going to see a race like Las Vegas?
I think it'll be in between. I personally think it'll be a little bit packier for sure, just because you're with the old Kentucky, like you guys said, that both corners are the same, and you got banking on both sides, so you're only lifting because you're in traffic. So it kind of depends on the weather. I'm trying to see what time of day. It's at nighttime, so my bet is it's going to be a little bit more, bit more bunched up. It may not be full pack like Vegas, but it's going to be closer to that than you saw tonight, I believe.
All right, Steve, you got a question for him?
Well, overall, the racing we had here, it was quite an interesting dichotomy between this and a lot of other mile-and-a-half tracks we've seen this season. So the closest comparison I can see here would be Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and it obviously looked a lot different. How would you say that it felt different compared to Las Vegas?
I don't know how much of it was the set versus just the track versus just the heat. But you saw we definitely got more spread out. You had to find the clean air here. Vegas, you could run behind guys a little bit, and sure, you had to lift, but you could hang with them. Here, if you made your move and you decided you were going high, if that guy in front of you went high, you lose a second, right? Just because you lost that air. So the air was much more important here tonight, and trying to find that clean air. And obviously that got worse once you got back in the pack, because at that point you just can't find the air. So that was the biggest difference.
Yeah, and it certainly looked an example of that, I think, would be Adriano Pinheiro, because he got that speeding penalty, it looked like, coming off a pit road on that pit stop. And that dropped him all the way to the back. And compared to Las Vegas, where he came up and took the win anyway on Monday night, he is still stuck down in 17th simply for that reason.
Yep, absolutely. And you guys know, we saw it last week. He's got all the talent in the world. He can come up through a pack, and if the fact that he couldn't make any moves just kind of tell you, it's just so hard to pass. So tonight was all it was a lot about qualifying, and it was about execution on pit road, and that's kind of really what won the race.
Before we let you go, any shout outs anyone want to say hi to?
Yeah, just congratulations to Pablo. Good win there for him. I think he led almost the whole race. Shout out to Highside Motorsports, Bumper Thumper Traction Compound, and Premier Racing Setups. And shout out to you guys. Thanks for what you do.
All right, we'll check you next week, P3, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, Kentucky.
All right, there we go. So yeah, interesting. It seems that I think it's the set, really. Because I think we ran with the same set in the Velocity Online Racing League. And I think they were experiencing kind of the same problems, and based upon the language I was giving him and the answer he was giving me, he was able to relate. I'm thinking that was probably a bad setup. So maybe something that iRacing want to do going forward is work on the setups. But, with them reconfiguring the track, makes no point putting a lot of work and making a new setup if they're going to reconfigure the track. Then that's probably the next time we see racing here, although we don't know that for sure. It's probably going to be season 3 2022 at the earliest, because the season 2 2022 schedule is already out, or at least the tentative schedule is already out, and we could talk about that here very shortly. Any final thoughts from you, Stephen, before we move on to talking about the tentative schedule for the next season?
Well, I personally think that if that's going to be the case, this may well be the end of an era in terms of iRacing IndyCar action at Atlanta Motor Speedway. This may well be one of the last times we'll see this, I guess we'll say the classic configuration of Atlanta Motor Speedway when it comes to the iRacing service. Of course, it's not the classic in real life. That, of course, is the original. But this may well be, with iRacing very quick to jump on a rescan of a NASCAR circuit these days. I can imagine the next time we're going to be racing the IR18 here, it's going to be on the new version of Atlanta, and I can see a lot of differences then with that one compared to what we see here tonight. So we'll see if how well that works out for them, for better or for worse. But this one was a pretty good send-off, I'd say.
Yeah, trying to find that schedule here right now that we can talk with people about real quick before we get on out of here. Let's see on the forums here real quick. Here it is. Now this is tentative, and this can change, but the schedule will start with a late afternoon race at Charlotte for week 1, a afternoon race at the bad version of Phoenix, a noon race at Homestead, a noon race at Auto Club, an afternoon race on the road course at Monza. That got chosen this year. Then an afternoon race at Legacy, Michigan, a late afternoon race at Milwaukee. The Indy Grand Prix is the other road course chosen for the schedule for Indy Fixed next season. That'll be an afternoon race. A Motegi race, late afternoon race there will be on the schedule. Of course, the Indy 500 high noon, or the Indy 50, excuse me. And then this is interesting. We're going to go back to another track that we've been to earlier in the season, but not unlike what it was with Charlotte, where we went to Legacy Charlotte and then we went to the Roval last season. We're going to Legacy Phoenix towards the end of next season, the proper version of Phoenix. So we're going to race both versions of Phoenix next season. That should be pretty interesting. And then, of course, they're going to wrap the season up at Texas. Some of the mods and community managers are saying that they kind of like the idea of finishing the season at Texas. IRL used to finish their seasons at Texas every year. I kind of like the idea of finishing up at Texas. So Texas is going to be last on the schedule for season 2 2022. So the earliest that we're going to see a new version of Atlanta will probably be season 3 2022 or season 4 2022. I'm going to guess that it's going to have enough votes in the forum to probably make the lineup again based upon everyone wanting to race the new configuration. So that's kind of what we're looking at for our next season. Now, next week, Legacy, Kentucky. You and I have done a race at Kentucky already. It was one of our first ones, I think. If not, it was me and Matt. One of our first broadcasts that we did doing the Indy Top Split. It was the new version of Kentucky, which had the different radiuses at each end of the racetrack, different banking. Excuse me. This is a more uniform version of Kentucky coming up, kind of what the IRL raced on when they had their last race there in 2011, or the IndyCar Series. It was known as back then. What are your thoughts on Legacy Kentucky at night next week, and how much different do you think today's race or next week's race is going to be from today's race?
I usually enjoy racing at Legacy, Kentucky. It's a track that, well, compared to the new version of Kentucky, it's got a lot of room to work with, like Atlanta does, and it's also got a lot of momentum you can gain on a lot of different lines. So the racing there tends to be really, really good. That was the case in real life, and it is still the case here on the iRacing service. So this track, it doesn't throw the curveballs that the new version of Kentucky does, but that could well be to its benefit. It could be a very, very entertaining race here. And it's from Sparta, Kentucky next week. I'm looking forward to it.
I gotta admit, I am too, and I do like that track, even the legacy version, a lot. So that's next week. As we will move on then. Before we go, I do want to apologize about the broadcast from last week. You only had one voice. No one told me that there was a second. You could not hear my voice. So I want to apologize about putting on a subpar broadcast last week. This week's broadcast isn't doing so great either. As you see, we got my taskbars down at the bottom, and then of course we got the bar at the top, and it was really weird coming right into the session, and it popped up on another screen, and I wasn't configured in OBS to go to another screen, so I just kind of made it work for tonight. So apologies. I contribute all this to upgrading to Windows 11. If you don't have to, don't do it. But I do apologize, and I appreciate everyone's patience for putting up with us and some of these little technical bugs. We're not as a smooth of an outfit as some of the other streamers out there, but hey, we love IndyCar racing all the same, and that's why we want to bring it to you. So that is it for tonight. We're your podium, and get on out of here right away. Your podium is Pablo Diaz-Francis, Rafael Eckert with a great run, and Christopher Wilhite with another great points-paying run towards this season's championship. Join Raceverse again next Monday. We'll be coming to you from the Legacy Kentucky Speedway for Round 9 of Season 1 2022 of the Monday Night Indy Fixed. That is next Monday night, 7:15 Eastern Time on youtube.com/Raceverse. We love bringing these races to you, and they're never easy. I've kind of proved that. And they require time and money to produce. We've brought you coverage of the last 2 seasons for free out of our passion of the sport of IndyCar. If you're just as passionate about IndyCar as we are and would like to see Raceverse coverage of the Monday Night Indy Fix continue for next season, please take time to visit our GoFundMe page. The link is in the description, and donate to our Monday Night Indy Fix broadcast fund. We realize times are tough, so any contributions greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching and making us a part of your Monday evenings. Now, as you know, the YouTube algorithm game is not easy, so help support Raceverse with the weekly grind we do. Please leave a comment below and let us know what you thought of tonight's race. If you enjoyed tonight's coverage, support us by smashing like in the video, and if you're new, click subscribe. And while you're at it, click the bell for weekly reminders so you don't miss out on more of Raceverse's iRacing programming, including our exclusive coverage of the Midwest Kidney Warriors Formula Indy Series on Tuesdays and the Revolution IndyCar League Schaefer IndyCar Series on Wednesday. Check youtube.com/Raceverse for time and availability in your areas. For business inquiries to learn more about Raceverse and what we do, visit raceverse.com or follow us on Twitter. You can follow me, Gary Godso, on Twitter @Gary Godso. So, for Stephen Larkamp, everyone at Raceverse, I'm Gary Godso saying to all, good night, thanks for watching, and to all of our men and women serving in the military and as first responders, Godspeed, God bless, and come home safe. Thanks again. Catch us next week for the next race of the Monday Night Indy Fixed. Good night.